to help you then. Some people think I'm anti-nonprofit.
Yeah, I was just about
There's
to ask.
narratives that have been out there. She hates nonprofits.
Well, here's the thing. They have to understand why people have those perspectives.
Yes.
You know, I've worked with plenty of nonprofits, and I've seen nonprofits that don't really do the work according to how they promote,
Yes.
you know? And I think...
Thank you for saying that, because...
think people are tired, y'all. Yeah. People are tired of, hey, give me your money so I can, you know, act like I'm X, Y, and Z. And they can be... Nonprofit people, you can be mad at me. It's okay. I just think that you have to respect some people that are questioning the results.
Well, if you're an older person on a fixed income and you're paying your taxes, right? And your taxes are going to nonprofits that are not showing accountability for.
Yeah.
That's hurtful.
Yeah.
Even if you're making money, you know, if my taxes are not being well spent, right? I don't mind spending on things that I see progress.
Right.
In, you know, whatever it is. It could be in the homeless situation. It could be whatever it could be.
And that was...
I do not mind if my taxes go to something that I'm seeing progress in. But if the progress is purely personal, if that nonprofit director just bought a house last year, right. You know, and I hear people, because you hear from people. Mm-hmm. There's one thing about people, they'll talk.
Yeah.
They'll say that nonprofit's not helping me.
Yeah.
They can claim this, but they're not, you know, it's all optics.
Hear the messages. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I think some people have to realize, like, yeah, people talk, y'all. Welcome. This is the Highlight Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Carson. And today I have Mara Zúñiga joining me. And she's running for mayor of Athens. If you've been keeping up with the mayor's election, you see a lot of different candidates, a lot of different faces. Today I want to introduce another face and give you guys another chance to see someone that wants to lead this community. There's a lot of stuff that's being discussed, and I feel like every person that's running should be able to come and voice their opinions. That's why I started Highlight. We saw that, you know, candidates and people that were facing certain issues weren't able to really come to the platform and address how they wanted to see how things were going. So I thank you so much for coming, spending time with us today. Thank you for your time. And I would love for you to kind of introduce yourself. Tell everybody, you know, about yourself, and we'll kind of go from there.
Perfect. So first I want to say thank you, because I know doing podcasts is not easy. I've tried doing podcasts myself, and I know editing and everything that you have to do. People just see the final clips, you know, the result. Mm-hmm. They don't really see from prep time to the end time. So hats off to you. You're doing a fantastic job. Plus, doing something like this with the candidates, that's public service, you know, and I thank you for that, because honestly, we don't have enough of these, and we need more of these platforms for every candidate to voice to the community what they stand for and give options, you know, and see where people are at, so that they can vote with knowledge of each individual. Because if they only have knowledge of one person, you can't compare, you know, the issues. So the more we have these kind of things out there, the better for the public.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all. I want to start off just with a little bit of your background. Like, where are you from, and what made you, you know, make roots in Athens?
Okay. So originally I'm from Nicaragua. I was born there. My father took off from Nicaragua in 1969. There's an interesting story behind his life, because when my father was growing up, and there's a lot of poverty, to the point when he left, 50% of the population was illiterate. So my father only has like 8th grade education, and my mom has 2nd grade education. But here's the thing. They had a trade. So, you know, back in the country, people learn how to do things because education is not that accessible to them. Mm-hmm. And so my father learned to be a mechanic, and my mother learned to be a seamstress. And my father, if you meet my father, he is a high quality person. He always tells us, when you do something, you do it the best you can. It doesn't matter what kind of job you have. You could be a toilet cleaner, and that's not to say that's a bad thing, but whatever you do, if you're a shoe shiner, you make sure those shoes are the best shine shoes. That's my dad's attitude. And that's how we grew up. No matter what you do, schoolwork, homework, or sweeping, because when my dad put his business up, I used to sweep. And he always said, do the best that you can. So my father always had that mentality. So when he was a mechanic, he used to take cars apart, completely apart. This is what his story to us. And he used to put them back together because he wanted to know exactly how the machinery worked.
Right.
So he became very well known for fixing cars. Now, one of the type of cars that he used to love to fix were Mercedes-Benz. Only because back in the day, Mercedes-Benz dealer was the only car dealership, I think, that was inside Nicaragua. And the reason for that was because the president, who was a dictator, he owned the dealership.
Oh.
And so only rich people had Mercedes. But my father liked the machines, and he used to take them apart, put them together. And this guy who was like the National Guard head, he was very well known for being a person that killed people. It was very corrupt system. It's a dictator for 50 years almost. Right. Actually, it was like 40 something. And so this guy, he had a Mercedes-Benz, and he loved this car, and he souped it up really nice with so many things. But then he had a problem with it. And he even brought engineers from Germany to come and fix the problem. And you think, why would he do something like that? My father didn't even know. Why would he try to get people to fix a small problem? Just get another car. I mean, he had access to that. But apparently he kind of made it personal, his personal car that was so wonderful to him. Somebody told him, hey, there's a guy that fixes Mercedes, and you might want to go take it to him. So it happened to be my father.
Yeah.
So my father was, he was a mechanic, and he had, working from his home, outside cars. You've probably seen people like this on Athens.
Yep.
And he sees his entourage coming in. Very scary entourage. So my father said, I recognized the guy because, you just knew because they were out in the news. Yeah. And he was afraid, of course. At first, he was like, oh, my gosh, why is this guy coming to visit me? Because it's like getting there's
a dictator walking in your front door, and he's not saying why he's here.
Dictator's military guy.
Yeah,
the guy who's known for killing people.
Right.
And it's almost like having the police, like, in your house here,
right,
and seeing the sheriff and a couple of cars coming. What do you think, right? It's not going to be pretty.
Right.
So my dad, he went and he approached him. He said, hey, I heard you could fix cars. My car is having a problem, and I want you to fix it. Nobody's been able to fix it. Of course, my father was, oh, my gosh, what if I can't fix this guy's car? What if I can't fix his problem, right?
Right.
My father's always been a Christian. So he said when the guy left, he said, oh, Lord, dear Jesus, please let me find the problem to this car.
Yeah, right.
Well, he took it apart, and he found the problem. It was a very small problem. You had to take it apart to fix it. And normally when you have engineers and people like that, they don't think in terms of taking things apart.
Yeah.
They think in terms of troubleshooting it generally. But my dad was a taking apart kind of person. And he took it apart, he found the problem. He explained it to me. I didn't understand it. But anyway, when the guy picked up his car, he was impressed. He said, what are you doing here working like this outside? You should be working, for the dealership.
Right.
Nobody would hire my dad. He had 8th grade education, So this man took him to the dealership and gave him a job there. And eventually my dad, they gave him the job of sales manager because my dad has a really good mind for business.
Right.
Just natural. He's a natural guy. He also plays music by ear. My dad would play the piano by ear. So I think he was born with some sort of, gift.
Right.
And so he was at the car dealership, and he was working there when the politics in Nicaragua started getting worse. And so my grandmother said to him, I think you should save money now that you have a good job and just leave. Your kids may end up in a war at some point. And so my dad thought about it. He took my grandmother's advice, and he started saving money. And the first chance he could, because there are requirements when you leave a country from Latin America, you have to have a requirement that you're not going to come here and leech off of the government. So you have to have some sort of substance. So he had a good job.
Right.
He had saved money, and he was able to, get a visa to come here. And once he came and had a visa, then he was able to apply for residence, which, there's always a process to that. So he came in 1969, and then he brought us in 1972 legally. It was not an easy task. He went through a lot, but we were all 7 kids were able to come here in 1972.
That's nice.
And so they didn't know the language. They didn't know the culture. They only had one family member in New York, an aunt, and she found him a job as mechanic. So my father used to work 4 hours a day. I'm sorry, he used to sleep 4 hours a day and work the rest of the hours, pumping gas and fixing cars. My mom worked at a factory, clothing manufacturing factory. So she was more into the quality control. She's also the same way. My mom is like, you got to do this the right way.
Attention to detail.
My mom would look at a clothing and look at it and say, this is not worth $20. Don't even look at it, because she would look at how it's made and the material of things.
Yeah.
So between both of them, they're kind of perfectionists, if you ask me. But
Household.
household, you know.
I'm curious. It's like, what influence did your parents have on you?
Well, as you see, number one's the faith. They came here with nothing other than their faith, their hope that they were going to do something. Work hard. They always thought, work hard and you'll have positive results. And so they always taught us that. And because they didn't have education, proper education, they always instilled in us, you have to learn. You have to do good in school. You know, this is an opportunity that you have. You have to make the best of it. So when we were going to public school, I always felt this weight on my shoulder. I have to do well. I have to do good, because my parents expect me. Now, they never looked over my shoulder. The pressure was all mine, you know?
Right.
Because I knew they never had the opportunity for higher education. And here I was in a place that I was going to public school, and the teachers were there encouraging us to do better. And so I had to do better.
Right.
You know, my aim was always get the best, have an A, you know, with whatever that took. And oftentimes that would go to working with my dad as well, because my dad came in 69, 72, we all came. By 74, my dad was putting up a business. Awesome. Didn't know what he was doing, but somebody helped them establish it. It was in Bushwick also.
Oh, okay.
If you look,
and that's Brooklyn, right?
That's Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of business?
Automotive repair.
Okay, awesome.
So I was in second grade going to my dad's job, doing my homework, and my dad would say, if you sweep the floor, I'll give you a quarter or a nickel, whatever it was back then. But, you know, I would sweep the floor, and then he elevated me to doing cashier work.
Right.
You know, eventually, as the years went by, I would go and collect the money and bring the change, and my father would stand above me and say, count the money. And I would go to count the money, you know,
right.
And I would make sure that they got the correct change. And that was normal to me.
Right.
Also, what was normal to me was translating from my dad, because being in business, it was a Spanish neighborhood, but we also had Black community and we had a white community. And sometimes Russians came in and sometimes Chinese people came in. It was because, you know, New York is a melting pot. So it doesn't really guarantee you that everybody's going to be Spanish. All your business
come from one person. Yeah.
So once in a while, someone would come in, didn't know the language, and he would say, okay, come and translate. So I was translating for my dad, you know, terms that I had to learn, like brakes. You know, a woman.
Alternator.
Learning alternator, you know. Right. And I was very curious. So there were times I would ask my dad, so what does that mean? And he would take me to the repair shop and say, okay, you know, take the tires apart. This is what the brake looks like. This is what stops the car.
Right.
And so I was picking up those terms as I was growing up.
Right.
So by the time I was 19, 20, actually my dad wanted to retire, and he was looking for one of his sons, because my dad was a very macho guy.
Right.
To take over the repair shop. And none of my brothers would. And I was like, I'll take over. And my dad was, well, that's not going to look good. You know, a woman running a repair shop. I said, well, none of your sons want to do it. And I already kind of grew up listening to all these terms, so I don't see why I couldn't do it. And he said, okay. He let me do it. But he would oversee me the first year or two. He would oversee what how I would handle people, you know, because I had a little bit of a spunk to me. I never liked to be told I couldn't do something. And so I would always like to prove people wrong that I could do it. So this was a challenge to me. I could show my dad I could do this, you know?
Right. Do you feel like that kind of, like, I kind of want to learn the transition after that. Like, you go from that environment, you're going through school. Where'd you go to college?
Okay. So at the same time that I was running the business, I was going to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn.
Okay.
I previously had gone to Stony Brook, which was in Long Island. So I was studying electrical engineering.
Mm.
So I was going to school studying electrical engineering, and I was managing my dad's business. It kind of helped because I was good with numbers. And in school, teaching you calculus, physics, and you had this kind of critical thinking that kind of developed as well. So
Right.
as you're running the business, you're doing numbers as well, trying to see how you can better the company, how to make the
Right.
numbers better.
Right.
So you start seeing how revenue works and where your expenses are going. And you're like, oh, this is not working out. Let's cut this out and make this better. Oh, these guys are not doing that great. Let's do this. So you start playing around with ideas
Right.
of how to make things run better,
Mm-hmm.
and how to deal with customers as well. But so I was studying electrical engineering. I was in Pratt Institute, and there was a certain moment in that period of time that I was in an auto accident.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know I was really hurt because at the time that I was in the car, it was like a small Pinto, and the car that hit me on the side, and it was like a Lincoln Navigator.
Dang.
And they passed a
big-
stop
big
sign
car, yeah.
in the winter, so it was kind of icy, and it hit me really hard. And I didn't think anything of it, but eventually I started developing symptoms. So where I was working part-time because I was going to school, I was unable to read because I was getting these really bad headaches every day, and it was like a hammer to my head every morning. So I was on painkillers every day. And I found that eventually I couldn't do it.
Mm.
So I had to, in my last year of studying engineering, I had to take time off because I just couldn't focus on my schoolwork. I was in pain all the time. And so I told my dad, I'm going to work full time because I need to find a doctor. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm getting these headaches. And I started going to doctors, and no one could find the problem. No one. And so I spent like 2 years like that on painkillers and just going to work and helping my dad. But I was suffering privately. And it really hurt me because I was at the peak of almost graduating, and I couldn't do anything with myself other than just apply myself to and my dad was the only one who could really understand as an employer. At times I had to get away, take pills or go to therapy. And, because I was self-employed with my dad, I was able to do those things. Eventually, a doctor did find the problem. It was very minuscule. It was a bone that had been broken. And it was actually touching a lot of my nerves in my back of my neck. And I had to be in therapy for another 2 years. So it was like 4 years.
4, wow.
And so I never went back to finish my education in engineering, because during that time I was full time with my dad, and I got married, and I started a new business with my husband. Things just took a different avenue.
Right.
And eventually I got into home ownership because I bought my house in my early 20s.
Okay.
And I realized how difficult it was for people to buy homes. Like, you don't really understand the process,
Right.
but people that are helping you in the banking system, they do.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times back in the day, as I learned later, there was a lot of abuse, between the people that were in lending,
Right.
because there was a lot of deregulation
Yeah.
during that time.
Can you approve anybody that they want?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was a big problem. They did a lot of switch and bait,
Man.
a lot of that. And I needed, and see, here's the thing. I saw things happening and I didn't know exactly what it was. So I went from being a loan officer to becoming a processor. And a lot of people say, hey, why are you going backwards? I mean, you're making money as a loan officer. Why would you want to be a processor? And I said, well, I want to know what it takes to get a loan approved. I mean, I'm seeing it from this end, but I want to know the whole process.
Right.
So I went and I became a processor for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was a processor, I'm a person that I like to ask questions. I want to know what's going on. And an underwriter took me under her wing and said, I like the way you work. I want you to know what it takes to be an underwriter. So I worked as an assistant underwriter. And so I learned the whole process with all that time. And then I went back to being a loan officer.
Right.
But then I had all the knowledge of what it took to take a package from beginning to end. The picture became clearer.
Right.
So I knew that so many people could buy a home if they were led the right way.
Right. Okay.
You know, but always on the front end, loan officers see this as a business rather than
Helping people.
helping people. You're making money while helping people. That's the way that I saw it.
Right.
You're making money while helping people. Sometimes people, you didn't get them, right? They would go somewhere else.
Right.
But you were happy that at least they were more informed. That was my thing. Because, okay, somebody offered you a little bit less, maybe $50 less,
Right.
$100 less. I had no control over that because banks usually put their fees. So
Yeah.
sometimes you may have asked somebody, above you, hey, can we do away with this? There's a lot of things that depended on that. So sometimes you lost a customer,
Right.
but at least they were well informed when they left.
Right. So in that customer service role, you got to deal with a lot of people.
Oh, for sure.
It looks like, that kind of set your career in motion as far as just professionally. What led you from there? Because that was in Brooklyn still, correct?
That was in Brooklyn. Yeah, that was in Brooklyn.
So what led you from Brooklyn down south,
Well,
down to Georgia?
we had a fire in our home
Mm.
where I almost thought I lost my daughter. And it was very hard because I lived in a two-family. I had bought a two-family home. I had neighbors. And at the time that this fire happened, I wasn't home. And I was like 2 blocks from my house, pretty much, when my sister called me, who lived across the street from me. And she said, I want you to be ready because, she said, your house is on fire. And I saw your husband, but I didn't see your daughter with him. And so for a minute, I mean, I can talk about this now. Back then, I couldn't even get the words out when I used to tell this story like years afterwards.
Wow.
But I was sitting at a traffic light and I closed my eyes and I said, Dear Lord, help me deal with what I have to deal with today.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I felt this peace come over me. And I knew my daughter was okay. And as soon as I felt that, my sister said, oh, no, your daughter's okay. She's fine. She's next door with our neighbor. And I said, oh, my gosh. So when I went to my house and I saw my house in flames, my whole neighbors were outside, I had peace. And they said, do you know what you've lost? You're in peace. Look at you. Look what you've lost. And I said, you don't know what I thought I lost.
Right.
I thought I lost my neighbor. I thought I lost my daughter. I thought I lost my dog. Everyone was okay.
Right.
So to see a structure in fire, which was insured, it didn't mean anything to me. It's like my life changed at that moment. I went from, I believe we're all kind of materialistic, but at that moment I felt I became totally immaterialistic because the life of the people that I loved the most at the time, my husband, my daughter, especially your first child, she was 5 years old. I thought I had lost her. And I said, things don't matter. So from that moment on, things didn't matter to me. I did like to progress in life, but never at the expense of somebody suffering or things like that. They didn't mean it. It didn't mean the same way, To me, challenges are challenges, and I overcome them, and I like to progress.
That's the
but
real
it's
development.
how you
That's
get
the real
there.
growth. Yeah.
Is what I love. How do you get there? If you get through with integrity, with ethics, it's much more valuable.
Right.
So when we had that fire, I felt like my daughter needed a change. I thought we all needed a change. And so I spent a year living with my sister, my younger sister, where we rebuilt the house. And that was the time when 9/11 happened. I was pregnant with my second son. And after 9/11 happened, we moved to Georgia because I was waiting for my house to be finished building. And I said, I need to take my family somewhere nice. So I visited different states. But when I came to Georgia, my husband said, Georgia has some of the most beautiful sunsets. And when I heard him say that, I started noticing the sunsets more. And I was like, yeah, Georgia has some beautiful sunsets. And so my husband said, you know what? I think I want to live on a farm in Georgia. And so we said, okay. We kind of went out, started looking for farms. It took us, I want to say, 4 years to find the perfect farm. And I'll tell you why. Because he wanted a farm where he didn't have to see people. And I wanted to be in a farm where I was 10 minutes or 10, 15 minutes away from the city.
Right.
Because coming from New York to rural town was going to be hard for me.
Yeah. I bet. Big town.
So we found a place, a farm in Winterville.
Okay.
And our children were raised there. And we've tried to make it sustainable. So living off of the land, trying to see what works, what doesn't work.
So you homestead.
We homestead.
That's nice.
Yeah. And it's been, we've been doing this since 2006.
Wow.
20 years now. But we do the work ourselves,
Yeah, I was about to say, what's like some of the best tips in homesteading? What's your favorite things about it that you've learned?
My favorite things, I think, is working with the family. Learning, because we didn't know about farming either, so my husband knew some things, but you have to understand the things that he learned were from Latin America. So the weather is different. The zoning is different for different produce that you can grow. So that's a learning situation, what to grow here. The methods, because my husband doesn't like to use chemicals. So you have to learn how to deal with the bugs. And then you have to learn what bugs eat what bugs and what plants work with what plants to make them healthier.
Right.
I tell you what, I'm not going to ever grow beans again. That's some hard work right there.
Right.
It's fun when your children are small because you learn and they learn at the same time.
Right.
But then as you age, bending down is not so easy anymore.
Yes, manual.
Manual stuff, I've learned how to use equipment that I never thought I could.
Right.
And they've learned too. So they know how to use big machinery.
That's nice. You went from the city to the farm, and then a whole, basically a generation of just living off the land.
Being patient. Because when you grow crops, you have to be patient. And then sometimes you lose all that work. Boom.
Not even
cold season comes, everything dies.
No harvest.
You have to be grateful. Yeah. You learn how to be grateful and say, okay, at least they died, but we're not dependent on the crops to survive, because we've always had I don't know how farmers do it. It's so difficult to live off of just farming.
Yeah. I do some marketing work with agriculture, and so from working with like Massey Ferguson's and tractors, combines, sprayers.
It's hard work.
Yes, knowing how much nitrogen is in the ground, like aerating, things like that. Like, it's a process, and
it's a process.
You learn to have some patience in that process. So that's really nice. I'm glad I learned that about you.
So I went from being, a city girl.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, growing up in Brooklyn, you learn a lot of stuff too, as far as social things that are concerned. Because
you know how to read the room.
You know how to read the room. I learned how to deal with men who were very chauvinistic. When I did the repair shop, for example, I had men come straight up to me and say, "Hey, where's the man?" No, like, man for what?
Right.
And they're like, "No, I'm not going to talk to a woman." And you have to learn to deal with those kind of personalities. But I tell you, a gentleman that saw me once, a man addressed me this way. I don't know what kind of face I made, because you have to learn how to be patient. I always wanted to prove that I knew about cars just as much and sometimes even more. But this man came up to me, he grabbed me by the hand and he said, "Honey, the problem is not with you, it's with him." That hit me hard with everything. Sexism, feminism, racism.
Right.
The problem's not with me.
Right.
The problem's with you. Whoever treats me bad because I'm a woman, I'm a Hispanic, I'm an immigrant, I'm not the problem.
Right.
Because I'm doing my best to be a good human being, right?
Right.
But if you can't see that, then the problem is with you. So I can keep walking in a positive mindset and not worry about this person.
Right.
I can just try, to engage and let them know, hey, it's different than what you perceive. But if the person's not open to that, it's okay.
Right.
I can continue to be who I am happily and not feel angry or bitter that someone else doesn't agree with me.
Right. You don't have to identify with it.
I don't.
Well, so you get to Athens. What is that like on just the social side, or what was Athens like back then for you? Is just trying to make it your new home?
Well, originally I was in Beaufort, and that was very different because it was just cookie cutter houses, and it was nice. But when I came to Athens for the first time, I loved it. It was very artsy. There was the music scene. It wasn't as much as it was now. There weren't as many restaurants. But it was just a whole college town feel. I said, oh, this is really nice. I told my husband, if I could find a farm close by to this town, this is where I would like to live. And so, it just happened to be. We found something so close and at the same distance that I wanted to be. So I saw downtown Athens, and it was pretty. You had small shops. They were owned by local people. it seemed to me. They were friendly. I didn't really ever find any kind of antagonism. Like sometimes you go to a town and people treat you bad. I didn't feel that at all. I kind of felt welcomed. So it was a good experience overall.
Right.
Okay.
And your kids, they went to school here and whatnot. And
they did. Sarah came to high school, to Cedar Shoals.
Okay.
Max went to Winterville Elementary. But I did get politically involved when I started being involved in their schooling. See, in New York, you could just, the way that I saw school over there, you dropped your kids, they learned the subject, you excelled in whatever because they had different programs.
Right.
You picked them up and they were up to date.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of had the same mindset for my kids here. But when they were bringing their report cards back home, they weren't doing well. And I knew they were smart kids. And I'm like, why aren't they doing well? So I started getting more involved, which is something that I didn't do back in New York. I was involved minimally, because the system seemed to be working so well for them. If they fell behind, the teachers kind of brought them up to speed. And they were just, pretty average. At least Sarah was, because she was in school there. And I did the same way. Mm-hmm. Here, it didn't seem like that. So I said, okay, so there's got to be a problem here, right? So I started being more involved in the school. And I went to the school and I got involved as a local governing team person. And parents weren't involved either, but I didn't see where the problems were until I started getting more involved. Mm-hmm. And I saw that I needed to get more involved. And it bothered me a little bit that why is it that we do not have a system in the school where that you take the kids, that's why we drop them off, right? So the teachers and the school system could take them to the place where they're supposed to. That wasn't happening here, I'm sorry to say. And so I was more involved. And it seemed I was more involved with my son's education than I was with my daughter's education. She seemed to flourish. But here's the thing. She had gone to the Beaufort school system first. And I find that this Beaufort school system is very strict. And there I was able to drop her off and pick her up. And she always did well. Mm-hmm. My son never attended Beaufort schools. So when he first came here, he went to Gaines and then he went to Winterville. And she did thrive because she went in as a 9th grader. And she already had set up it was like a college preparatory school.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In Beaufort, they have that.
Advancement,
yeah. And so she already had certain skills that she had when she went to Cedar Shoals.
Right.
My son started from scratch here. And it seems he was kind of lost.
Yeah.
Like he didn't know how to navigate through the school. And it was like, I need to guide him,
Right.
So that was where I started to see, okay, where's the problem here? And then one thing led to another, and I started reading about community. And as soon as I started reading about community, I started reading about issues that were happening. I was like, oh, there's stuff happening here in Athens that is concerning to me besides the school system,
Right. And so I want you to talk about a little bit about your son's education, because you told me, you saw how he was performing. Mm-hmm. What adjustments did you make to kind of help better support him?
Well, in 4th grade, my son loved to go to school. And in 4th grade, he started not wanting to go to school. And I said, okay, son, what is it that you don't want to go to school? And he didn't want to tell me.
Right.
But apparently one of the teachers was coming to school angry. And she was kind of taking it out on the kids. And he didn't want to tell me this. I think kids are afraid to tell their parents. But I'm a talker. I communicate with my kids. And I talked long hours. And finally, he told me what the problem was. And so I went to school. And I said, look, this teacher is treating the kids this way. And the children feel afraid. And so we had a conversation, the principal and the teacher, and my son was afraid. But he came out and he said, yeah, she makes me feel this way. And so the teacher came out and she said she had been having problems at home. Mm-hmm. And she hadn't realized that she was taking it out in school. Mm-hmm. And so the principal and a counselor that was there kind of went to my son and said, we're proud of you, because now what you did is great, because the other kids in the classroom now will be able to benefit from this confrontation, if you can call it like that.
Yeah.
He was afraid, but he learned that he had to speak up. And that was one of the first things. And the other thing was, another time, by being involved with my child's education, I was told by a teacher that he needed to have special medication in 5th grade. Mm-hmm. because he wasn't doing good in math.
Mm.
And she goes, he has a problem, ADHD.
Mm.
And I said, really? So I took his report card. I went home and I told my husband, the teacher thinks our son needs medication. And he said, why? And it's because he's not doing good in math.
Mm.
And so my husband looked at his report card and he said, well, that's the only thing he's doing bad in. He's got an A in science. He's got an A in history. He's got an A in this. So is it the teacher or is it the child?
Yeah, right.
And I said, my gosh, I didn't even pick that up. And so I went to the principal and I said, look, I will take my son out for math class and I will teach him math. At that time, I was teaching English as a second language in Winterville.
Okay.
To Spanish-speaking mothers. And I said, I'm going to have to stop doing that because I'm going to have to teach my son math. And I want to take him out. So the principal was really nice. And she said, no, don't do that. I will speak to the teacher. And I said, I don't want him to take these state tests and then fail because he's behind.
Right.
She goes, no, I will speak to the teacher. So I continued to teach English as a second language.
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher was approached and she was instructed by the principal how to get my son up to speed. Because obviously he was smart. For some reason in that class, he wasn't doing well.
Mm.
He passed the state test. He did wonderful in that class. So, I saw these things and I said, well, this is me being involved with my child. What happens to the parents that have to work 2 jobs, that can't be as involved? So their children are going to fall through the cracks.
Right.
And I started being very concerned and said, I need to be more involved in his education. So he was still lagging in 5th grade. So what I did was I took him out and I homeschooled him for 6th and 7th grade. So when he went into 8th grade, he was an honor student.
Mm. So when he left school, he was failing or he was, lagging behind. And
he was lagging behind.
You came back, you got him more advanced than where
he was more advanced.
His teachers had prepared him for.
Yeah. And I wish I would have homeschooled all the way through 8th grade and him to have gotten in 9th grade. But he's just a very social child. And he was like, Mom, I'm ready to go back to school. And so he went in 8th grade and he was just through high school.
No issue.
He graduated with honors through high school.
So it's not, go back to your other point that you mentioned earlier. It's not me. It's them. It's what this is, this construct that we all apparently have to adhere to.
Yeah. And it's a shame because, like I said, I was concerned and I was involved and I was able to try and I got a critical mind to begin with. I see a problem. I want to solve it. That's just my nature.
Right.
Problem, solve it. And so by doing that, you have to look at what the core of the problem is. Where is it coming from? Where is it stemming? And then you got to look at things and then you have to proceed and see how you solve it in a professional way. And in my way, I saw the problem. I approached the teacher. I approached the principal, protocol.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a solution.
Right.
People do want to help kids, but you have to see where the problem is first.
Right.
Kind
of got to take things apart, put it back together.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think we've talked a lot about your personal life, how you got here. I think everybody can understand you as a mom, as a teacher, as a friend. So I'm glad we got to have that part. I want to dig into your mayoral campaign.
Okay.
Because this isn't your first time running for office.
It's not, yeah.
So you ran both
4
last
years
time.
ago.
Yeah.
No, just one time.
Oh, just one? Okay.
Yeah, 2002.
Right. And we sat down and we did an interview then, and I was able to understand more about your campaign. And so I kind of want to start there. Like, how do you feel about your first campaign and how that kind of introduced you to local politics and, the environment here in Athens and the issues?
Back then, like I said, I started reading the news in the area. And here's the thing. The news, when you read the flagpole, when you read Athens banner, when you read in black, it's kind of like they all say the same thing, right? So you kind of believe the news, right? Because they all say the same thing. It can't be untrue. But when I started going out to the community, because I first got involved through the school,
right,
and then I started thinking, well, you know what? The community has some issues that I'm starting to read about, and I want to know more about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to go out to the communities more. And then what I realized was that what I was reading was not completely true to what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I started talking to people directly,
Right.
the questions and the concerns that I had. And so half-truths can be considered truths, or they can be considered lies.
Right.
And a lot of people choose to see half-truths as truths. But I don't see it like that. I see that as an incomplete picture.
Right. You're only giving us half of the story.
You give me half of the story, that's not really telling me the whole story. So I don't know if I kind of agree with things now, right? So I started to do my research by going directly to the source and finding things out for myself rather than reading about it. And I do find that a lot of people read stories here and they read just a portion of it and say, okay, that's what it is.
Yep.
And I really found that to be different. So why am I being told have the truth? Because there's narratives, right? Everybody wants to have something happen. And the only way that could happen if you have public support. The only way you can have public support is just by giving that half information so that people can say, oh, I agree with that.
Right.
I was like that. So I know that that's
how
what it's like.
Yeah.
If you don't go out and you don't talk to people or you don't find more research on the subject, then you're going to agree with what you're reading. And usually that writer will tell you, oh, this is not good because, oh, this is good because. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. I agree with the because.
Right. Implicit bias.
Implicit bias.
Right.
So
you're getting involved in politics, and what are some of the truths that you're discovering? I want to see what issues that you saw that were important to you, and during that campaign.
There was a lot of issues, but let me specifically talk about one which gets used a lot. There was a Confederate monument. Remember the Confederate monument? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I found that interesting. Not being a Southern, not having grown up here, I didn't really have a say in it. I wanted to learn more about it because there were pros and cons to the whole situation. So that was one thing that I didn't know too much about. And so I said, let me go out and learn more about it because there seems to be passion behind this thing. And so I went out to a meeting that was, I don't want to say who the groups were, if that's okay.
That's fine, yeah.
There was a meeting that said we're going to discuss in a non-biased way the pros and the cons. I said, oh, that's perfect for me.
Right.
I'm that type of person that wants to hear the pros and cons without any bias. So I went, and the first clip that was shown at this meeting was a white man saying a racial slur to a black person, right? And I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh my gosh, it had nothing to do with Athens. It was a slur of a white man saying something awful to a black person that happened outside of Athens.
Wow.
So automatically in my mind was like,
what does this have to do with the monument?
With the monument, right? And so it was awful. It was an awful beginning. And so they were talking about options to taking the monument down. They could do another monument across the street,
right,
showing the progress of the race issues.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's not a bad solution, right? Because it won't hit up the people who are for it, but at the same time, you show the progress. I thought it was a nice solution in my mind. And then they asked for questions, and I asked the question. And the person that was holding this situation did not like ask the question. And it was kind of made known to me. And I was like, okay, I didn't feel comfortable with the way I was approached. That's okay. At the end of the meeting, this person said, put your hand up and make a pledge. But they didn't say what the pledge was going to be. And I said, I'm not going to pledge for anything. I don't know what the pledge is going to be, right? So everybody put their, because people are like that, put your hand up.
Just for...
I didn't put my hand up because I said, unless I know what I'm going to pledge to, I'm not pledging.
Right.
And so they made everybody do a pledge. And then somebody took a picture from the back. They put it in the red and black. And they said, the community is for this because they put their hands up and they pledged this.
Mm.
That's when I learned about optics.
Yeah.
I said, I was there.
And that's not what that was.
That's not what it was.
Yeah. And
that's not what we agree. I said, that is unbelievable to me that I was placed there and this was the optics afterwards. And they made it seem like the community was for this.
Right.
When in fact, that's not what it was.
It's a lot of issues that get, misconstrued like that.
Yeah.
And my thing was, especially with the monument, one, it was more so of a state thing. It wasn't, I mean, we had the local input, but to move it from where it was to where it is now, it's not far from here. It's actually like right down the street from here. And, you know, it's like we have so many other things we could be talking about. I felt like the monument is one thing. It is a representation of what, you know, how both sides kind of view it. I think they both have some slight truths to it. But when I'm looking at how kids are being educated, how people are being jailed, how, you know, businesses are being basically priced out of their markets, you know, like it's just way more important things. And I think that, you know, we have to get away. I think that was a very big symbolic thing that didn't, you know, develop into any real growth for Athens.
Yeah.
You know, and
it was meant to, I think it was meant to divide people, honestly.
Yes.
Because sometimes you pick stuff like that to divide people.
Right.
It's not going to bring any solution. Why even talk about it? Now, the solutions that were presented, and like I said, I wouldn't think I would have had a say in that one. Even if people asked me, I would have said, well, let the people that were born in Athens, right? The people that felt that kind of heat, let them decide what they want to do, right?
Right.
I'm not coming in as an outsider. I wanted to learn. That's what I wanted to learn, because for me, this was history in the learning, you know?
Right.
So that was the purpose for me to assist to these places and to these things and these conversations, was to learn.
Right.
Because my family didn't grow up here. I didn't grow up here. So I know people that have. Since that moment till now, I know a lot of people. I've learned a lot of people that were born here, were raised here, and I've learned so much from them. But at that moment, I recognize I'm not from here. I don't have a say. I'm just here to learn.
Right.
But I heard the arguments, and I was part of listening and seeing how the optics were being played. For what?
The data centers. So when it comes to like current debates in the community,
yes,
I feel like the data centers are one of them. Is there anything that you've seen on that side?
Yeah, I mean, I hear the pros and cons for data center. And here's the thing. I love when like I said, the optics. You repeat something enough, people start saying it and believing it. It's going to happen regardless. It's going to happen regardless. So people start listening to that, and you're thinking, why? Why regardless, right? It's not the right fit for Athens. If we're so small and we're looking for land to build housing in, even the smallest data center is going to take a lot of land, even the smallest ones.
Right.
Not only land, but water and electricity, noise pollution. They have the solutions to some of those things, but not to the water thing, right? So like I tell you, I start thinking about many different things. So the data center is going to take up water. Then it brings me back to the quarry.
Yeah.
Did we not do the quarry and the reservoir because we had a drought and we were worried about water? So why are we saying yes to something that will come in multiple amounts if it's going to take up a lot of water, right?
Right.
Now, the quarry is a big issue. And I don't know if you're familiar with the quarry situation. But the quarry, the people in the area have put up with their foundations falling off, their roof, you know, things happening to them. I know a lady that a rock went in through her house, right? Because she lived so close to the quarry, it fell through her house.
Wow.
Nearly missing her. Her house, she spent more than $100,000 just fixing it. Insurance doesn't cover it.
Wow.
But this is where she grew up, and this is where her parents gave her. She said, I am not giving up my house. I will do whatever it takes to keep my house.
Right.
But here's the thing. All the people that live in the vicinity put up with things like that. And they were happy when it was turning from a quarry to a reservoir, which originally the local government said, hey, it's going to supply water for 100 years. Then they changed and said, no, we need to keep excavating because we're making $900,000 more a year. Right. We know this.
Right.
But it's not because we're making $900,000 more a year and we're not giving it to the people who are mostly being affected by it, right? Mm-hmm. It's because we want more water. Because actually, we said 100 years, but we didn't take into account the growth of Athens.
Right.
Wonderful talk, right? I
mean,
pretty easy to believe unless you're really looking at what's happening. Now the data center comes. Weren't we worried about water?
Right. And now it's like, well, this is going to make us more money. Like some somebody I saw, they were like, a data center in Athens is going to make Athens a lot of money. And it's like, same thing. You just don't know what the byproducts are of these. And I think
Well, there's tax incentives too. So, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
how much money are you really making in the end? They're not really creating that many jobs.
right,
You're taking up a whole lot of land. And if you let one in, the other ones are soon to follow, apparently, right?
right.
So they're making money for who, besides, what we think is the local government. It's going to destroy our ecology.
Right.
And I'm a farmer. I love to see green. I know a lot of people don't think that I do because I'm very outspoken about priorities. And when I talk about, for example, I say, trails have to wait, they think I'm saying no to trails. We need trails. We need parks. We need recreational
Yep.
things. We need all of that things. But we need to look at the priority of what we do need at first, right? So in order of priorities is the things that are needed the most. Like right now, I learned through Urban 3 that we're almost $30 million in our infrastructure upkeep.
The infrastructure side of things, because I feel like after we won the 2 national champions, or after the school, won those championships, Athens went like a huge redevelopment. It just looks a lot different now than it did during the pandemic.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I guess my question for you is that, like, as a mayor or as a person that's running for mayor, how do you feel like the future of Athens is headed with some of these different developments?
When I first came, and I'll answer it this way, when I first came to Beaufort, right, Georgia, and in Beaufort, the Mall of Georgia wasn't there.
Oh, wow.
It was just starting, and you had none of the businesses around it, right? And now when I go back, the traffic is horrendous. I mean, it's horrendous around the Beaufort Mall. The way it has just grown is incredible. So many people. And when you drive through little towns that you used to drive through, it used to be like family restaurants.
Right.
Now you see a lot of the Chick-fil-A, and that's not to, say anything bad about any of the franchises, but you see so many franchises.
Right.
Right. So where have the small mom and pop shops gone to, right? When you have so many of these, you cannot differentiate from town to town like you used to. Because you go to a town, it's like, this franchise, that franchise, this franchise. It feels like the last town that had all those franchises.
Right.
So I almost want to say that that's how Athens is looking to me, that it's going to look like. A bunch of franchises, right?
Right.
So how different is it going to be from another college town? Like before, you could sense the small
identity.
Yeah, there was an identity to Athens. And now the identity is going to be big corp. And I hear this from not only, one kind of person. Many people say the same thing. We feel like there's big corps coming in.
Right.
And that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like when you had the old hardware stores, and all of a sudden you get this humongous franchise, and this can't survive because the bigger franchise can handle so much more.
Yeah.
Now you can say you're bringing in jobs, but they're not high paying jobs.
Right. Nobody wants to work for little to no income.
Yeah. So it's better for a person to be self-employed.
Right.
Because as a self-employed person, there's certain things you can accommodate to paying people higher,
right.
Versus a big franchise. They have set prices to your salaries, and there's procedures to going up.
And there's not more opportunity in working a job. You have to work a job, go in every day, and you're not really able to capitalize on your innovation as an employee. You can't innovate your skills, your process, unless you go do a school and job.
Exactly.
And I feel like small towns give you those environments, those markets. Like as a small business, I've been able to work with big corporations, but even before I got there, I was able to work with small corporations. And I feel like, even places like Athens or places like Macon and Savannah, there are small industries in those places that give, they help give identity to the business side of that. And, in Athens, I hate to say it, y'all, but a lot of our business community is getting shut out. Like I saw Hendershots is getting ready to close at the end of March. Weaver D's just had 40 years, his 40
And there's rumor, the Palma downtown closed. I know that they say it's because of retirement, but still,
If he was, if the doors were really going, would he be retiring? You know,
well,
like,
they have the other franchise, the other.
oh yeah,
open.
East Side, yeah.
So you're closing the downtown one. There's got to be reasons behind that.
Right.
Costs are higher.
Yeah.
Taxes are higher.
Yeah.
There's fees that associated being downtown.
Right.
You know, so I'm a big business person.
Same.
I do believe that if somebody wants to get ahead, try a business. Maybe you don't have to start like in a brick and mortar. Maybe you could start at home, right?
Right.
Maybe it could be an online person. Hey,
right.
You know, I work from home.
Yeah.
So because the rents are so high,
yeah.
You know, you have to do accommodations, but you have people on staff, and you can, instead of paying it to a location, sometimes you could pay it to your employee.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
and that can help them. Instead of them having to go get a job that they don't like, they can come and get a nice, decent job with you, work, get some information, get some knowledge, and maybe go start their own business. Because that's what happened with me. My dad, he taught me, and I went and started. Eventually, it wasn't the same business, but I used the skills that I learned, and it's like each one teach one.
Well, that's what happened in our repair shop.
Right.
We had at least 2 or 3 people that went to put their own repair shops that we helped them.
Yeah.
Or we helped them establish a business that compensated with our own business. So we kind of
help vendors.
Yeah. Yep. So we did that. So I know that works.
And that is like a big part of community and identity. Because even same, my dad, like his mentee would come, and then he started his car dealership, you know, down the block, and so it's just it's really what helps you identify.
And then you can help people buy homes, you know, because that's the other thing.
Yeah.
We're not up to par with home ownership here in Athens, and we prefer to give it to, you know, developers outside. I was going to say outside developers, outside investors, which we have to give priority to the people that live here. But I do see there's not enough being done for that. I do see that. As a person that has dealt for more than, I want to say 20 years in home ownership and understand the process fully, I can tell you not enough is being done. And sometimes there are people that tell me, well, you know, banks redline. But here's my thing. When my daughter was buying her second home, she went to an online bank. They were not even in Georgia, you know, but because you understand the process, right? I said, you're going to need this, and that. You're going to tell them this, and that. And you're going to, the contract's got to say this. You kind of prepare people for that. Now, she had already bought her first house. She knew how to do it, but that's not your thing. You know, you need someone to help you. And for that, there has to be a community.
Right.
You know, your neighborhood bank has to be able to help you, right? Yeah. But if they don't, there has to be some sort of nonprofit, right, that will be able to help you. Then some people think I'm anti-nonprofit.
Yeah, I was just about to ask.
There's narratives that have been out there. She hates nonprofits.
Well, here's the thing: they have to understand why people have those perspectives.
Yes.
You know, I've worked with plenty of nonprofits, and I've seen nonprofits that don't really do the work according to how they promote. Yes. You know. And I think,
thank you for saying that, because
people are tired, y'all. Yeah. People are tired of, hey, give me your money so I can, you know, act like I'm X, Y, and Z. And they can be nonprofit people. You can be mad at me. It's okay. I just think that you have to respect some people that are questioning the results.
Well, if you're an older person on a fixed income and you're paying your taxes, right? And your taxes are going to nonprofits that are not showing accountability for.
Yeah.
That's hurtful.
Yeah.
Even if you're making money, you know, if my taxes are not being well spent, right? I don't mind spending on things that I see progress.
Right.
In, you know, whatever it is. It could be in the homeless situation. It could be whatever it could be.
And that was...
I do not mind if my taxes go to something that I'm seeing progress in. But if the progress is purely personal, if that nonprofit director just bought a house last year, right. You know, and I hear people, because you hear from people.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing about people, they'll talk.
Yeah.
They'll say that nonprofit's not helping me.
Yeah.
They can claim this, but they're not, you know, it's all optics.
Hear the messages. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, some people have to realize, like, yeah, people talk, y'all. I know that there are some nonprofits that, like, you know, one nonprofit has gotten the most money out of any other minority-owned nonprofit ever, and just the scandals, it's not appropriate. It's not appropriate. And so, you know, the people that approve that should also be looking. We should be looking at them, because you approved this.
Yeah.
How did you not have a vetting? You know, and because that's my thing, and I think it goes back to like even with your dad.
Yeah.
Having that textile, like having that hands-on, you see the issues. You guys are the ones in the seat seeing the issues.
Yes.
You know, and I wonder, just as mayor, if you were to be mayor,
Mm-hmm.
how would you go about that process of vetting some of these things before, you know, you give millions of dollars to somebody?
Well, you have to set up a system, of course. That's something you would have to work with the city manager. I think the city manager's hands are tied. That's the way I see it sometimes. I mean, you work for the commissioner and the mayor, right? But at the same time, they want you to do, you know, certain things that should really apply to everybody else, you know?
Right. Yeah, I get that part.
You have to be the overseer. As commissioner and mayor, you have to continue to oversee what the city manager is doing, right?
Right.
And you have to see that there are some systems set in place. Now, if people are coming to you, because I hear a lot of complaints from people saying, I call and they don't give me the answer. You call this office and they didn't give you the answer? I mean, that should be something.
There should be a form. We should be able to have that a daily update, you know?
Yes. And when you have so many complaints about calling a certain department and nobody's addressing your issues, what is the problem?
Yeah.
You know, and I hear this a lot. So one of the things would be, I would have to sit down with the city manager, I'm being honest, and just look through everything I've heard about the people complaining and just trying to get to the root of the problem. Because that's bottom line, there's always a root to the problem.
Right.
We see the problems up here and we're trying to put a Band-Aid so it won't leak. Well, what about looking at where the big old crack is?
Exactly.
Right? We got to look at where the crack is because maybe we need to change the pipe completely.
Right.
And we don't want to change the pipe completely. We just want to put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah.
And I don't care about changing the pipe completely.
Okay.
I think people have to have a backbone to change the pipe. I am willing to change the pipe.
Yeah.
Roll up my sleeves,
right.
Take out my wrench,
right.
And change that old pipe.
I love it. So in this, you've had experience with other commissioners, right?
Yes.
Just tell me what that's like. What has it been just learning each district, seeing what the needs are?
I've tested a couple of commissioners, quite actually, with different problems in their areas or outside of their areas. And some will go the extra mile. And some will do the bureaucratic thing is like, oh, I'll find out. They told me no. It doesn't go beyond that. And I think that sometimes people have to go beyond what's expected. If you're in the position to serve the public, then go beyond. It can't be just, oh, it says no. Or I asked the director of that and they said no. I'll give you an example. I'm not going to say who the commissioner is, but I spoke to a commissioner about some parents that wanted lighting for an extra hour at the Southeast Park.
Mm-hmm.
They said, well, our kids need that in the winter because otherwise they're going to be home and some tend to go out and they may not do great things. So I called this commissioner up and I brought some family members and I said, they're representing a family of 20 kids because it's like a whole team.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but not everybody could be here, but they've got the names. And could you see maybe about getting lighting for an extra hour, just 1 hour, to Southeast Park? He said, I'll find out. It took a couple of weeks. And then it was a no. And there was nothing else. You know, there was no discussion. There was no, let's bring them to the table. Let's explain to the parents why. It gave me the answer. I wasn't happy with the answer. I thought more could be done. It was just an hour. I mean, sure, it might represent expense, right? But we're spending on nonprofits that are not giving accountability. And this would be for children who want to play soccer so that they don't have to be on the street per their parents, right?
Yeah.
So I thought more could have been done by that. There's another commissioner that it was like, I want to say after I ran in 2022, and it was December 22 around there. And a person called me up in a building and they said, we don't have water and we have older people and there's something going on and we don't know. We called the water department in Athens and nobody picked up. And I said, really? And they said, yeah, so wanted to see if you can help us. How can I help, right? I'm thinking, how can I help? And I'm worried, and it's almost Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm worried. I'm thinking, what do I do? And I said, I'll call the water department for you. And I called the water department, and I got a nice young man, and he said, well, I'm just sitting here answering calls.
Right.
He said, everybody's on vacation. And I said, well, this building doesn't
An
have water.
emergency.
It's an emergency, There's kids, they're older people. And he said, well, let me see what I could do. Really nice guy. At first, he said he couldn't do anything. But I was begging him. I was asking him, come on, you work for the department.
people,
I
yeah.
can't do anything about it. Maybe you can make a phone call. Do you have a list of people? Here I am throwing him ideas,
yeah.
Do you have an emergency? What if there was an explosion where you're at? Is there anybody you can call? Like I'm giving him
Right.
all these scenarios. And he's like, okay, give me a few minutes. And so I was sitting home and I was really worried. And I said, what can I do? I mean, I'm not in office. People voted for the other man.
Right.
And for the man. And I said, wait a minute. I've met commissioners. I mean, I know people. Like I started saying, I know people.
Right.
And so someone came to mind. And I called this person. And this person always answers my call when it comes. It doesn't even have to be in her district.
Mm.
She will, and I'll tell you who it is. It's Ovita Thornton.
I was gonna take a guess. Avita's always answering the phone.
It may not be in her district. It may not be her problem.
Right.
But if somebody is suffering out there, she will find a way.
Right.
And so I called her, and she was not even in Athens. And I said, listen, I can't sleep until something gets done because I'm worried about the situation. And she said, well, listen, let me see what I can do. Now, she was on vacation. She wasn't even here in Athens.
Right.
And she called someone. End of the story. Problem solved.
Water back.
Water
Let
back.
there be water.
Water back. It was told in the commission that there was this problem, and Oviedo solved it with the city manager, and Allison Wright was involved. My name wasn't named, so it's okay. Don't need the credit. I don't work for credit.
Right.
But the problem was solved. And that's when I knew it only takes a wanting. You want to help, you can find a way,
Right.
Only if you've tried your darn hardest and you've tried every avenue, you've shaken every tree, and you can say, I absolutely have tried everything. And I haven't found that yet.
Right.
I pretty much just found people say, oh, it can't be done. You haven't even tried. And so I know that people can go the extra mile to alleviate someone's problem or concern somehow. If you can't, that's okay. You tried. But try.
Right. At least get in there and try and do something.
Yeah.
Y'all will try to give a lot of allocation and funds. So
Yeah. And I know people have issues with every commissioner, right? So
right.
there
Right.
could be, that's why I didn't want to give the name to the person that didn't do the extra mile. That's okay. But I did want to give a shout out to Avita, because just the other day I asked her about a homeless person too. I said, there's a homeless person that I feel this person has all the qualifications to get housing. Smart young man, had electrical background. I said, could you meet with him? She said, yes. Dropped everything, and she said, I'll meet with him tomorrow. Unfortunately, the young man didn't show up. I tried to find him. I couldn't find him where I told him I could meet with him. But she was ready to meet with him to see what she could do, who she could speak to. And I like that. I think you can disagree with Avita all you want on certain subjects, right? And some people can say many things you can say about this commissioner or that commissioner. But out of all the commissioners, her and I want to say the other person is Stephanie Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie Johnson is another person that I've called on. And she's not very accessible a lot of times, but I believe that's because she's still learning.
Yeah.
And she's still busy with things. But when she gets to you, she will have an answer for you.
Right.
So
right.
I do like that. I do like when commissioners, as busy as they are, maybe they don't get to you within 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever it is. If it's about a concern for a community member, they're willing to step up.
Right.
And I haven't dealt with all of them, of course. I can't say I have never dealt with some people. I mean, maybe 5 or 6 commissioners. Maybe I haven't brought things to their attention. There is one commissioner that won't speak to me, and she's in my district. She's my district commissioner, won't speak to me.
What do you do? Like, What could you? I mean, and you're you. I wonder if it was just me or a regular everyday person. You know, because my thing is being easily accessible is to some extent an issue.
Yeah.
But being completely unavailable,
Being completely unavailable
mistrusting.
because you don't agree with people,
Yeah,
that's wrong.
we're not in elementary school. You know.
That's wrong. Because even if you don't agree with my perspective on some things, you should be accessible. I live in your county. Maybe I'm bringing, like I said, a problem that has to do with someone else. And that will probably be more the case with me, is I'll probably be calling you because of an issue happening with community members or one person in specific. Very rarely will it be about me. Very rarely. I would say practically never. But
Right.
because I will try to look for my solutions. But the people that I help sometimes are not familiar with the system. I'm still not 100% familiar, but what people do know about me is that I do engage with community leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Say, for example, I'll bring this to you with the firefighters. The
Okay.
firefighters were fighting for Title 25.
Okay.
I had no idea.
What's Title 25?
That was the how would you call it? The words, the union.
Oh, okay.
I was
okay.
looking for the word union.
Yeah. Union. Okay.
The union, because it would give them bargaining.
For their pay.
Yeah, for their pay. And I had no idea that they were doing this thing until one firefighter reached out to me and sent me a clip where Mayor Gertz voted no for this union. And I said, that's weird. I would think Mayor Gertz would vote yes for this. He was very adamant that he was going to vote no, even if everybody else voted yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, why? And then I heard the pros and the cons. And then I met some of the firefighters, which were our neighbors.
Right.
Some people did live outside of Athens, but a lot of them were our neighbors. And they're like, well, we just want to bargain, negotiate certain things that we're losing firefighters over.
Other cities and things like that. Yeah.
And so I said, oh my gosh, we're getting to critical numbers. And so I did something that I learned that I have a skill in, and that's coalition, communication. I began to bring people together.
Mm-hmm.
Some people that never even thought would support a union. They were like, union is a bad word for us. Why would you even bring this to us?
Right.
And I said, because these are our neighbors. Because this is not going to open the doors to every union. Because this is a problem we have at hand and we need to deal with the situation. Long story short, because there was a coalition, one of the commissioners said, because this came from two sides of the aisle, I'm going to vote yes on this. And I realized at that point was a highlight for me was that sometimes people are talking about two different things and don't even realize it. I'm talking about apples, you're talking about oranges, and we are arguing over something we don't even know it's different. But what if I break things down for you and I break things down for you and we look at the situation differently, right?
Right.
And this is what I see. A lot of miscommunication, or somebody said to me, misinformation, and some of the word of information is not the same thing. But to me, it's miscommunication. There's certain words that trigger people to think a certain way. So you could say equity, boom. Some people, their back hair stand up. They used equity. Some people use equality. I don't like that word because it means different things to different people.
Right.
But if you begin the conversation with, okay, what do you mean by equality? Or what do you mean by this, right? Then you begin to learn, because they're thinking like this. Well, that's not what I meant. This is what I meant, because to me, this is what this means.
Right, right.
And then when you start realizing that you're talking about apples and oranges, then you begin to say, okay, so let's talk about your apple. Let's talk about your orange. Now that we know that's what we're talking about, then the conversation changes.
We're able to align more. Let's banter back and forth. And that's what a lot of stuff, like when I'm watching mayor and commission meetings, it's especially in the public comment side, like that's really where you get to see all that. And I just, the back and forth versus, hey, let's just have a conversation. You can come up here and voice your opinion, but let's have a conversation after that. I want to know more of the pillars of your campaign. Now that you went through your first campaign running for mayor, and you get to see the aftermath of how that went. What's your new approach to this campaign?
My platform is almost the same.
Okay.
The only thing that I really added to it, two things I added to it with more strength. Number one was restore trust. Because we are seeing the effects of the lack of trust people have for the local government.
Right.
So people in office say, oh, we're talking so much about this, but it's people don't understand. Well, people don't understand because you're not transparent. There's a lot of times where the local government has passed something and says, well, we passed it because we spoke to the community. And when you go find out who was the community, it was 3 or 4 people that they chose to speak to.
Right.
The whole community said we weren't there. And they said, well, the community didn't come out. Well, they didn't know. So, I see these things and I'm saying, well, there's a lack of trust because now the local government is seeming to address only some people so that they can get a speedier process to say we did engage with the community and these community folks said it was okay with them. So we proceeded and we passed it really fast.
Right. Even though that's not a representation of the whole. So do you think that that's why they keep postponing the data center decision?
I do, because there has to be a way to pitch it.
Right. Right.
High density. How was high density pitched? Urban 3 studies, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, we pay for these studies that are so expensive. Well, look at the study. Dissect it. I dissect it. I see a sales pitch.
Mm. It's almost like that half of the picture.
Yeah, right. So if I, it's almost like marketing.
Right.
Hey, that's a good word.
Yeah.
Local government is doing marketing through their studies.
Mm. Is that how studies supposed to work?
Right? This is what we want to show or represent. Please show it, right?
Right.
So that's how I saw Urban 3 with the high density. I had more questions than I had clear solutions with it, So everybody has to go look at the Urban 3 study so they can know where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
But
I was going to say, where can they find that?
on YouTube, you put Urban 3 studies, or Urban 3, Athens, Georgia. It'll bring it up.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll see a couple of them.
When did they do that study?
I saw that last year being presented, if I'm correct.
Okay.
I think it was last year that it was presented, or maybe the year before that.
Okay.
Time
sometimes. And so they're using that study to justify all 8, 10, 20,
yes,
student housing developments.
Yes.
Instead of affordable housing for people, that have multiple kids or multiple families, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, y'all. I mean, just to me. I get our students are important, but I've just seen people that continuously leave Athens because the government doesn't prioritize the people that are from here.
Yeah.
Versus the people that are transplant or, transient through here.
And that's important. We really have to address the citizens because let's take, for example, we're talking about housing. People who own their home and their taxes are high, that's an affordable housing issue.
Right.
We can say all we want. Oh, we need to raise the taxes because now we have instilled certain programs that were not sustainable because we got the ARPA money, right? We did a whole bunch of initiatives.
Yeah.
They're not sustainable, but now we already put them in there, so we have to sustain them. So we have to raise your taxes because we have to keep these programs, right?
Right. Another trend of our economy being propped by our government spending rather than letting the markets grow and be developed into
yes.
that.
Yeah.
I want to know. We talked about several things with your mayoral campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, what do you feel like people misunderstand when it comes to you as a candidate? Just like, how could they better get to know you? Like, you might be their next mayor, so like, how can they better understand that, like, why you should be that person?
Well, that's an excellent question. I think there are forces here that a lot of people are not aware of, right?
Yeah.
Some welcome that vision of high growth, high money, big money coming in and just making this town like a Nashville, right?
Mm.
And I get that. the door has been open for that. So now a few people are happy because they're seeing, oh, well, this is making money for some people, right? And the door has been opened. Then there are different forces that just want to, in order to make reform or changes, just want to break the whole system down. And like, let's break the whole system down and just reconstruct it, let's say. Which at some point when I was young, I kind of saw that as a possibility. At this stage, I don't see it like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to be more informed as citizens. We have to go out and meet people. Like, some people just read about me, right? And like I said, there are some half-truths, right?
Mm-hmm.
People will give half-truths because they want that narrative to be, well, she can't represent Athens because she's associated with some people.
Mm.
I don't negate associating with anybody. I deal with Democrats, Republicans, liberals, progressives. But then the half-truths are, I don't associate with these. I just associate with this.
Yeah.
Right?
And each of them are saying a different one.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Let's highlight that she only associates with this because that'll give her a certain branding, right?
Right.
I still don't stop. Some people will stop associating with people or having friends. I don't. Because I come from a very high ethical background. I am not going to say I'm not your friend. I am not going to say that I deal with you because somebody is bullying me. I grew up with bullying. I bully back. I push back. I don't bully back. I push back bullies, right? So when people do that to me, I go out and I meet them. Hey, how are you? I'm Mara.
Let's get face to face.
And they cringe because they're like, oh, it's going to come off on me. Her branding is going to come off on me.
Right.
What I'm trying to show these folk is I'm a regular person just like you.
Right, exactly.
With the difference is that I don't let folk push me to just associate with like-minded people.
Right.
I like diversity. I like true diversity, not diversity in my outer
that keeps
appearance.
You comfortable.
Yeah, that keeps me comfortable. I like diversity that challenges me.
Right.
I want somebody to say, hey, Mara, I don't agree with you on this. Really? Why?
Let's talk about it.
Right? It may be uncomfortable, but I've been in very uncomfortable places. I like to be in uncomfortable situations. I do. Because comfort kills things. If you're comfortable, it kills your innovation.
Yeah.
It kills your creativity, right? If you're sitting among people that are patting you in the back and always telling you you're wonderful, how do you even go to the next level?
Right. You don't.
You don't go to the next level. You get stagnant because you are comfortable. And there's nothing nicer than to have somebody pat you on the back and say how wonderful you are, right?
Right.
But you're not helping anybody that way. And we're all in this comfort zone. And we want diversity of appearance, but we don't want diversity of thinking.
The mind.
And I like that kind of diversity, both diversities. I like both diversities, If we have an agency, like I applied for I want to say it was a committee that was dealing with the 316 corridor, which is a big thing now.
Right.
And it was Mayor Gertz, and it was two other white ladies, right? And so when I was looking for the committees, I was looking for somewhere that I could be diverse in, right? So I looked at this committee and I said, oh, I want to apply for that one because one person was leaving. And the person that was leaving was on 5 other committees. Oh, wow. So I thought this person wouldn't miss it, right?
Right.
And we had a People and Belonging office, which at that time was called the Inclusion Office.
Okay. So I remember that. I didn't know they changed that. Sorry. But
I thought this is going to be wonderful because now we have an inclusion office, right? I'm trying to get into a committee where there are 3 white people. Right. I looked at this lady's qualifications. I had similar qualifications. She had been in lending. I was in lending. She was like 20 years. I was like 21 years. She knew about this. I knew about that. She was about to leave. I was about to come in if they approved me, right?
Right.
And she was on 5 other committees. So I said, this is perfect. So I applied and everything, got interviewed by 2 of the most liberal commissioners existing in that body.
Right.
Feminists, right? Pro-immigrant, pro-diversity. And here I was, I'm like,
Somebody that can understand me.
somebody that can understand me, that knows I belong in there, right? Nope. I was not accepted there. And I was like, this is interesting. I said, because here's the thing. I was diverse here, but I was not diverse here.
And they didn't like that.
And so I said, I understand now. This is the type of diversity some people want, is diversity of here, but not here. You want me to think like you.
Right.
You don't want to be challenged by me. But I come from a place that is a melting pot, like New York.
Right.
People challenge each other. You have to coexist with people that don't look like you, don't think like you, won't act like you.
Yep.
And you have to coexist. And so that's what I bring as a candidate. I've dealt with a lot of different thinking folk. I have the communication skills to say, hey, let's sit down and look at this problem from your perspective and my perspective, and let's bring in some other people who may have different perspective, and let's see how we can, follow through with finding a solution to this, right?
Right.
And have the communication skills to do that. So I find that people in the elected offices right now run away from that. They don't want to converse. They're like, we're going to have to talk. We're antsy. Yeah, she's going to not agree with me. Yeah. She's going to challenge me. Well, let's hope.
Yeah.
I want to challenge you.
I will say, like, and I've learned that from sales, like, even somebody would be like, hey, why should I advertise in Highlight Magazine? Good pitch for it right now. I'm like, quality, distribution, diversity. I'm also like, hey, does anybody else really see a place where you can come and speak freely for yourself? You know, if you can't back those things up, you look low confident.
Yes.
We doubt you.
Yes.
You don't seem like you have everybody's best interest. Because I wouldn't say those things just to make myself seem great. I see it because I know the need for it.
Yes.
So it's just a lot of things. I want, I want everybody to understand why I'm bringing candidates on, y'all. Like, there is a space here where people are controlling things. They are making things where we might be going back in time, it seems, Yes. And then so it's just that, I don't think that anybody should be pigeonholed. I think we should allow space for everybody. So I'm curious, now that you qualified, now that you're officially, in the race, what do you have that people can come and see you face to face, so they don't have to just meet you through here? How can they engage with you? How can they find you?
I've had a couple of meet and greets. I had one in the library last week. I have another one. I gave you the flyer there. It's going to be at Revival City Church.
Oh, okay. Thursday, March 19th, y'all. From 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. This episode will be out before then. Revival City Church Coffee House is at 1200 Forest Heights Drive, my old neighborhood. Remember that? Yeah. So okay. Is there anything else that...
There's a Faith Leaders Luncheon that's happening also. I think I sent you the flyer.
Oh, okay.
Can you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I want you to read it out. I don't want to miss the details because I don't have it memorized. But...
Yeah, no, I got you. So the Faith Leaders Luncheon is Thursday, March 19th as well, same day, but it's earlier in the day from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's going to be at 2150 Lexington Road, Athens, Georgia, at the Chapel of Living Hope Church.
Yes. There's also going to be another debate. I don't have my phone with me right now.
Right.
But if they go to my website, maraformayor.com, the events will be posted there, and people can check out where the debates are going to be, and they can come and meet me there too. But there will be other events, obviously, before that time.
Right. Well,
which I will be posting, and it'd be great if people go to maraformayor.com because they will check out my platform and see that I failed to mention that aside from restoring trust, remember I said there was two things?
Yeah.
There was the sustainability part. Because I hear a lot of people saying that the trees are getting cut off everywhere, and we're just starting to see a lot of concrete and trees are not being put back. One of my platform things that I've highlighted this time around more so is the sustainability part, because of the data centers and because of the new housings that are, being put up and trees are getting cut off. We do want to incorporate that beautiful part that Athens has, which is the environment, the trees and the greenery. And I think that's important. And it's important to a lot of people, apparently, that I've spoken to.
Yeah. I mean, even going to Sandy Creek. Like, we would do boat races. You know, one of my mentors, he and it's funny, the old city manager, Blaine, they would get on their boats, and I would go out there with my nephew or somebody, and oh, look at them. It would be a community thing. I want to know, what community would Athens be if you were the mayor? Like, what?
Well, here's the thing. For people that know me, know that after I finished the last race and did not win, the next day I was out in the community and I was engaging more. And this past 4 years, I've done nothing but try to engage with the community. And that's one of the biggest reasons that I came and ran again, is because of the stories that I hear, the passion that I see, people wanting to go back to that community sense. And I grew up with that community sense. Even though I grew up in New York, I was part of a church, and even the school felt like a community back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel I have this community sense inside of me, and I do see that it's lacking here in Athens. And maybe at some point it was there, but slowly but surely it's been pulling away. It's been being polarized purposely, in my opinion. So people are afraid to come out to downtown, older people. I mean, we don't talk to older people enough, but start talking to a few older people, and they'll start telling you what they miss. We have older people that are sick. Nobody's visiting them.
Right.
They've had a birthday. Maybe only their immediate family goes. And these are community people that have been, that in the past were so engaged. We've forgotten about them, and I've learned their stories, and I'm thinking, wow, this person should be an icon. But there's that polarization. Oh, that person is a Black Republican.
Yeah.
Oh, this person is a Black Democrat. And I'm thinking, why are we even discussing that? This is a person that felt that in their time, they were engaged. They were helping folk uplift themselves, right? And now they're older. Now they're in their 70s and their 80s. And people have forgotten about them, and we need to engage with them. And I've engaged with some of them, and I've learned so much, so much of their love and their passion and what they've done. And I could see they're hurting because they saw a vision for Athens, and it's slowly breaking apart, starting from unification.
Okay, yeah.
And they always go back to unification. And I've read and I've heard stories, and I think about it and I say, yeah, because, when unification happened, we were talking about affordable housing back then.
Mm-hmm.
We're still talking about affordable housing.
Right.
There's a lot of issues that were then happening that we're still talking about now.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, those leaders that were pressing for these things that needed to be done, they haven't seen them done.
Yeah.
And so you have to go back to engaging the community and stop being polarized.
Right.
And I believe that as the candidate that has engaged a lot with the community, and I haven't engaged like some people say, oh, I've been in the community for 30, 40 years, 20 years. My question is, well, what have you done?
Yeah.
Because if you were effective in the community, we would have seen something.
The results,
Yeah.
the fruit of your labor
The fruit
speaks
of your
for
labor.
itself.
Yeah.
I will say, and sorry to interrupt you, one of the commissioners that I saw running for mayor before you did your first campaign was Harry Sims.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm listening to your points. Harry Sims ran for mayor. Before that, he was a commissioner for 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
The results that the man built in Athens, the Triangle Plaza, the fire stations, the things that he built up in this community and fought for, the hands that have changed and controlled them now have let them fall.
Yeah.
And, when he ran for mayor, they used the same things that they let deteriorate. And they blamed it on him and gave him the same thing. Oh, he's a Black Republican. This is a nonpartisan race.
It's a nonpartisan race, yeah. They want you to wear a hat. They want you to wear. But honestly, if it's apolitical, right? It's nonpartisan. If you say you're a Democrat, then you're already saying, these are my constituents. If you say I'm a Republican, then that's what you're saying. If you're saying I'm not going to say anything because I put my hat at the door,
Right.
You're literally saying, I'm making a commitment to be nonpartisan.
Right.
That means I will speak to anybody who doesn't have the same ideology as me, who doesn't think the same way I do, and you will not know where I stand, because that's how you should be. It's like if you're a believer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be more effective if you go out and tell somebody, I am a Christian, right? I am a Christian. I need you to be a Christian, rather than to show the works that you do.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Is you show your works, and then somebody will say, well, you know what? That person, first they'll say, oh, that person is nice. Then they'll say, oh, that person is compassionate. Eventually, people will say, what do you believe in?
Right.
Because I see that you do all these things. Naturally, it will flow out of you.
Right.
And that's more effective when nobody knows what your background is.
Yeah.
Then they start seeing your works.
It's
There's
less
too much of talking.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to convince you of things, but they haven't really shown you anything.
Right.
You need to show people something. Now, here's where I have shown things to people.
Right.
If I can say so.
Yes. We want to see the results. Tell us.
First of all, I've gone to the mayor commissioner meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I have stood boldly for what I believe in. I don't say, oh, there's a few folk that are afraid of their jobs. I get it. Or there's a few folk that feel like after 2020, they just have this big fear of retribution.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried to be bold just to let people know, let your stance be known. It doesn't matter if people agree with you or not, but if you're so passionate about something, you go stand in front of that commission and you tell them what you believe in, right? If you're for something or against something, right? So when there was defunding the police, a lot of people saying, oh, we don't want to go because we heard there's going to be a protest and they're going to attack us. And I said, no, I'm going to go out there because I'm from New York. I need to know that the police they may not be perfect, right? I don't believe in perfect. But if we have problems in any agency, then reform it. Address
Right.
the issue. Go to the root of the problem and fix whatever is wrong with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we need to remove the pipe, we need to remove the pipe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that thing will not get defunded. Because why? Because we have women and children, and there's gangs, and there's people out there that will threaten you, and you need the police at some point.
Right.
I have needed the police at some point in my life. I had needed the firefighters in my time,
Mm-hmm.
as I stated before. We want them to have the equipment. We want them to have
The pay.
the pay, the insurance. We want them to believe with a passion, because these people, when they do that kind of job, it's because they're willing to put their life in danger.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
You'd see a police officer. I never thought about this, but a police officer told me, we're on high stress from the time we go to work to the time we come out. And then we are expected to be a good husband or a good wife or a good mother or a good father when we just saw a crime. We saw a rape. Sorry, I shouldn't say that word.
It's okay.
We saw crimes happening, right? It's like a button. People expect us to turn the button on in the morning and turn the button off. We can't. Every day we see these things, and then we have to go hug our child or be caring to our wife or our husband. And there's that training. And
Right.
there's that little bit of grace you got to give sometimes to police officers for, I've had police officers be angry at me at some point, like,
Right.
let me see your license.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, just showing your license.
Yeah, because if you're not doing nothing
You know?
wrong, I mean, but also it's like those situations are so high stress for everybody.
It's high stress for everybody already. But, sometimes you think about so many things that they go through, right? And sure, there's bad officers. I do not negate that.
Right.
There's officers that should be taking into accountability for the lack of training that they don't apply. When they're given this training, they don't apply it, or whatever else they're bringing in. But for the most part, some police officers that I've come across, they share these things with me. They say, we love the community. We want to see how we can help the community. And so those are the folk that I would engage with. I want to know, as if I was the mayor, I want to be more involved in the community. I don't want to be sitting at a desk. I want to be out there with the people.
Right. Right.
This is something that I've always thought and wonder why they don't do this. But when there's a high crime scenario, why don't we go to that parent, that wife, that mother as elected officials and guarantee and tell them we're going to find whoever did this, hold their hand and say, we care.
Right.
If they go through a crime, I don't think I've ever heard anybody
Anybody
say
going to
they've
the
come
scene.
to me and and be upfront. I think we're not a big place. Brooklyn has like 3 million people.
Right.
Athens has 150,000
Right.
people, more
We
or
should
less,
be more
right?
connected.
We
Yeah.
should be more connected.
And I'll say, like, I've heard from officers, in regards to training, like, they are heavy on, you need your 500 hours, heavy on that. I also heard that the brass is very open to being on scene when things happen, and so I would say, I think that's because they're so hands-on with it that they see it. I would love for more of the commissioners and whatnot to be, forefront and involved, but I'm not with any of them, so I don't know if they are or aren't. But I want to talk about what you just mentioned a second ago about training, because right now on a national level, immigration is a huge discussion, and ICE training, the ICE officers not being trained properly. How do you feel about? I mean, I know as mayor you might not have as much peer view or control, but what would you be able to affect, or how do you view what's going on in the country right now?
Well, of course, any immigrant is going to tell you they don't like to see badly trained officers, whether they're police or sheriff or ICE people. Nobody likes an untrained person. And I don't think anybody does not want to be treated with respect. I mean, even if you are, even if you come here illegally, I don't think that people should be treated with disrespect, shove, push. If you don't have your papers, immigration is not new to me, as it probably is not new to you.
Right.
This has been going on for years. People have crossed the border for years. There is a process. When people cross the border, there is a process. There's a court. There are judges. And for the most part, a lot of people get approved from what I've seen. My experience hearing from people and seeing if they, even if they didn't do the lawful way of going, through the ports, which you can go through the ports.
Yeah.
If you go illegally, right? Even if you go illegally and you have a case, the judges, they've done this for so many years. There's usually requirements that they give you and you have to follow through. And eventually you have to have someone support you and say they're going to support you. And 9 out of 10 times, from what I've seen, the process is good. What has happened in this past years, everybody knows, in this past couple of years, we had a flood of that. Right. And here's something that a lot of people feel uncomfortable discussing. But I know this because it's a fact. I know people from Nicaragua who have had positions in government who are now living here and said to me, we saw a lot of Cubans coming to Nicaragua, getting false IDs, coming as Nicaraguans through the border.
Wow.
Who were they? How were they vetted?
Right.
That's only one situation that I know of.
Right.
And it's reliable sources, right?
Right.
And they have told me this, and it's not one time they have done this. It's quite a few times, right?
Right. It's the trend now because it's been done so much.
Yeah. So if Cubans can do that through Nicaragua, who else has done it?
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, so we have people that have gone through the border. Granted, people that have felt poverty and awful things in their country have crossed, but also a whole bunch of question marks.
Right.
And these question marks is what worry a lot of people, including legal immigrants, right? And we know, we all know, when we talk among ourselves, immigrants that are legal and illegal, we all
know the dirt. Yeah.
We know the dirt, yep. Right? There's the narrative that people want to pass by, and then there's the truth.
The truth, yeah.
The truth is, a lot of good people have passed by, but a lot of bad people have gone by.
Right.
Right? And these very bad people are within our communities. Now, here's the thing that people don't understand. In the Spanish communities, yes, there's so much misinformation that they're afraid to call on the crime doers in their communities because there's misinformation that when the police comes, they are the ones that are going to ask them for their immigration status. And that's not true. See, if you call the police about someone, they're not, they unless you're doing the crime,
they're not going to worry about you.
They're not going to worry about you.
Right.
Right. And I've been told this by the police officers.
Yeah.
They just want to get the criminals. But the misinformation and somebody's putting that misinformation for a narrative, right?
Right.
Is that if you call the police, they're going to take you with them because you have no paper. So they don't call about certain crimes,
Yeah.
and they're living with this crime
Right.
because they're afraid, right? So what do I offer? Well, I speak Spanish. I think if I get elected as mayor, I will be someone that they can trust because I am the mayor and I speak the language directly. I can tell them what the actual truth is, not the misinformation. And I think people will trust that. I've done this before with the police department where we've gone to Spanish neighborhoods and we've gone and given out popsicles and have told them, hey, look, the police just wants to let you know that if you see crime, let them know they're not going to arrest the people who. We've done that. I've done that with
It's
the
community
police.
policing, really.
Yeah. So I think we need more of that. And I think if it comes from a mayor who is speaking the same language as they are, and I speak it fluently,
Right.
and I'm also very aware of the cultures, because in New York, see, a lot of people kind of put every Spanish person in a box, and we're different.
They do the same.
Someone
We're not
from
a
Mexico
monolith.
is
Yeah.
different from Salvador, is different from Ecuador, is different. We all share a commonality, but even the way we express ourselves and our foods are different. And I've come across just about every person in Latin America, and someone from Puerto Rico is very different from somebody from Nicaragua.
Yeah.
I grew up with a lot of Puerto Ricans because when we arrived in New York in the 70s, it was mainly Puerto Ricans that were there. So I know the food, the culture, the language.
Right.
In Nicaragua, I didn't grow up, believe it or not, I didn't grow up with Nicaraguans. I grew up with the Puerto Ricans. So my culture I know because of my parents.
Okay.
And our food we did at home. And then my husband's from Ecuador. So
Right.
South America is different than Central America, and it's different from the Caribbean.
Right.
So Cuba's different also from
other Latin
countries. Yeah. So
I'm curious, right? Because I had a friend come on my podcast. We grew up together, went to school together growing up here in Athens, and he is an undocumented immigrant. He came over here as a young kid. He said we were living in a utility closet, in Mexico, and they immigrated here. And he was like, even now, if I were to get deported, he said mainly the one thing that he wouldn't want is like his kids. He didn't want to be away from his kids. That's like the most important thing on his list. But he was like, if I were to go back, he was like, I might actually be worth more going back there and developing my own hometown. And so I one of the other things
that's a great point, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tell me why, because I was curious. I was actually surprised when he said that.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. People that come from Latin America are not coming here because they have money. It's the ones that don't have money, that haven't been able to save. So they come here, they can work and save money. And when they go back, they could put up a business. They'll live better there than they do here. And I'll tell you why. In Ecuador, for example, the standard of living is like, for living would be $450 a month. Can you imagine someone living on $450 a month here? No. So over there, if you even get, like, some people here I've known get like $1,200 a month, right? That's their fixed, and that's hard to live on. That you could live in a house over there by the beach, and even have someone help you with your household stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I think another thing that he said, and just because I knew when I had that conversation with him, I knew I was going to have you come on, and I was like, I'm going to love getting both sides of this. I asked him, I said, Trump, they say Trump won the election really mostly in part to an increase in Latino voters. And I was like, why would Latin people want to vote for him? And then he does, they're doing what they're doing with immigration. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, what do you think goes on in some of those people's minds?
Well,
who might vote for
whether
him?
people may like it or not, Hispanics are conservatives for the most part. They are conservative with their, well, no, let's just put it this way. It's almost like me. I say I'm fiscally conservative and socially inclusive.
Mm.
Whether that's Republican or Democrat, I don't know.
Right.
But that's
right.
what I am.
Right.
I'm fiscally conservative and socially inclusive. What does that mean? Well, you'll find that Hispanic people are very inclusive. We'll make a party and we'll invite anybody
Everybody.
and welcome anybody. It's in our culture,
Yep.
right? So, and that's the way that I am. I get. That's why some people here in Athens, they kind of ask me, "How come you get along with so many people?" I don't know. It's part of my culture. I embrace everybody. I don't care. You know, we're having a party, we're cooking some food, you're getting some.
Right.
But when it comes to money, we're very, very conservative. We want to make sure that our budget is tight, that things will work for our businesses. You know, what kind of stuff is he passing? Any president, not just Trump or Biden, whoever. Any president, I believe the Hispanics look at how is it going to affect them economically.
Right. Okay.
Economically, including illegal.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
Because when they're illegal, they come and they get a tax ID. They put up a business. Guess what? They're paying taxes.
Right.
Right? All of a sudden, you're a taxpayer. You want what's best for you in terms of taxes.
Right.
And that's where they are conservative.
Got you.
Right? We will vote on a conservative fiscal item before we will vote for something that has to do with social.
Yeah.
It's a fact. And I think maybe he nailed something on that, you know. And when it comes to the immigration, we all know who's crossing that border. I'm sorry, you could have your own narrative, but we want to be safe in our own communities, you know.
Right.
And even though two people may come across illegally and one may be dangerous and the other one's not, the one that is not dangerous will say, I don't want him coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, right.
Get him out. That's what they will
Right.
say because they know. I mean, I've had people that I know, their experiences when crossing that border is so dangerous, especially now. It was dangerous back then when I was a little girl and you used to hear people talk about the stories of people crossing through. It is even more dangerous now. The stories that I hear from people, I said, I don't know if I would be able to cross over if that was the case, if I was desperate or whatever. But people that are crossing are going to face some issues. May or may not. Some people don't face them for whatever reason. But the danger still exists there. I mean, there's drugs, there's prostitution, there's stealing of people, children. You may not want to accept that that's true, but that is true. I hear it from everyday people, you know?
Right.
It's a fact. I mean, whether people want to accept it or not, it's up to them.
Right. Well, yeah, those are just some of the things I was curious about because, yeah, he came from one perspective. I was like, I got to get Mara's. Is there anything else you want to leave with us? We're going to have her back and all of the other candidates to do more debates and stuff like that. But just while you're here, is there anything else you want to leave with the audience? Let them know about you, getting in touch and all that good stuff?
I think people really need to reach out to all the candidates. And here's one thing. I went to a candidate training that they were holding the Chamber of Commerce. And I remember someone asking the mayor, the present mayor, they said, what kind of experience do you think a person should bring, you know, as a candidate? And he said something that stuck to me. And he said, well, life skills. He said, to me, the most important is life skills. He goes, what they bring is as life skills. And also, he said, don't vote for nice. Yeah. He said, don't vote for nice.
Right.
And that stuck to me. I said, some people are politicians. They will be nice. You know, they'll tell you what you want to hear. But they'll tell another person what they want to hear, which is opposite to what they're telling you.
Right.
Right? You have to be real, especially these days. You have to be real because people will see your side. And it's not like if you're telling me one thing and don't think that those two people are not going to talk.
Right.
They will talk. You can slide by. But if you're not transparent right now, you're not going to be transparent when you're in office. That's just plain and simple. You're not transparent now. You're not going to be transparent in office. And so
let me ask you something real quick. What does not being transparent look like, or where have you seen it look like with other candidates?
I think it's making believe that you're a certain persona, you know, like you're a certain way, and you're trying to, like Mayor Gersh said, be nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're gonna rub people the wrong way.
Okay.
And that's when you know a person is transparent, because you said something politically incorrect. Oh, I didn't agree with her. But that's okay.
Right.
Then, but I'm telling you where I'm coming from. I'm being real with you. I know
Right.
the popular answer may be
Yeah.
blankety blank, but
That
I'm not
comfortable
gonna,
answer.
the comfortable answer will be this: we all want world peace and hunger to disappear.
Right.
Is it possible? Oh, I'm going to pour so much money, I'm going to get rid of that. That's phony, because there's no way right now that you can give a solution without being in office.
Right.
It's because number one, as the mayor, you're not going to come in as the mayor of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's totally different.
Yep.
You're just going to put some things on the agenda. It's going to be needed to be voted on by 6 commissioners, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not all on you. And there's a lot of other things that you're going to come to see that you don't see as an outsider. So I'd be lying to the audience to say, oh, yeah, I'm going to solve this problem this way and that way. I'm going to build so many houses that I'm going to bring the price of housing down within 30 days. Not true.
We've heard that answer before.
Housing costs are expensive, right?
Yeah.
I've spoken to builders who have told me it's hard to build in Athens. What you're going to get is high money developers, because they're the only ones who can afford to put in as much things that they're being requested to put in.
Right.
The price of the products are expensive. The interest rate is high. The assessments are high. How are you going to do affordable housing, right? And even if you do what Houston or Texas is doing, which a lot of people are saying, all these other places are doing it, so it works for them, it's going to work for us. How many times have we done stuff that works for other places and still doesn't work for Athens, right? But we put it in there.
Yeah.
We put it in there because it worked for
them.
California.
Right.
It worked for Minnesota.
Right.
It worked for, I don't know what other place it may have worked, Florida.
Right.
We're 2 different places.
Yeah.
So.
And the people that, look at our government and they're like, oh, well, we want to be like Nashville. They're literally excluding a whole other side of town.
Yes.
That represents us and identifies too. So stuff like that, it annoys me.
We can be a better Nashville. We can be a new Nashville. We can be the other Nashville that is totally innovative with our community. Why do we have to be like Nashville?
Right.
We don't have to, We have enough creative people here. We have passion, we have intelligence, but only a few people are getting incorporated into this whole vision of Athens,
Yep. There's some people I can't even get a call back for an interview, Mara.
Really?
Yeah, but they'll go on the little interview where there's no video cameras, no lighting, and after a year of their interview being up, it's 5 views, and that's the group that gets to dictate, X, Y, and Z. So no, I get that.
That's why we need more people like you, and you're doing a fantastic job. And I told you this because you've been consistent. You've learned a lot. You're out there. You're letting the public know what's going on. That's super important. Right. I can only see huge success for you, and I hope that the community that are doing stuff out there that need some sort of visual for whatever it is that they want, they would reach out to you, because you've done this for so long.
Yeah.
And every time you keep getting better, in my opinion.
I appreciate it. I mean, it's not really about as much as it would help me and my family.
Yeah.
But like there are some things, just like how you're passionate about what you're doing, I'm very passionate about this. So hopefully, we can hear more from you, and that people will tune in more. Share this with your friends. Share this with anybody that that cares about Athens politics. And, send us some feedback. Leave us some messages in the comments.
Feedback is always good.
Yeah, because we want to
Even if you don't agree with me.
Exactly.
I love it if you don't agree with me.
Exactly.
Because then maybe I'm wrong or maybe you're wrong.
And another part of it that I want, all candidates to understand is that when you come up here, I'm going to ask you these questions. I'm going to allow you to talk. When we get to these debates, I'm going to be taking all the feedback that I get. And all of you will have to address, these critiques. So I hope that, more candidates step forward, come join us, and share this around, leave feedback. And is there you gave your website. Is there anything else that they need to know about you or where they can find you?
Just everything you can find is at maraformayor.com. And if you want to email, it's mara@maraformayor.com.
Okay.
And I will reach out to you as soon as I can. I have to say, sometimes it won't be right away because there's just so much you get a lot of scam in these things. You get
Yeah.
a campaign season. You get a lot of people saying, hey, we could service your campaign. And you have to go
Yeah.
through so many things, including just people that want to give you feedback and say, hey, I support you. Keep it up. I get a lot of those, which is fantastic. I get emails from people just saying, hey, I've looked at your platform. I like you. I'm going to vote for you. Keep it up. And I love hearing those. But, in the shuffle, there's questions. And so I ask people to just give me a little bit of time to answer some emails. And if you email me, if not, you can come to the events that I'll be holding and the debates. And, I usually stay a little bit later to answer questions people may have.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Mara.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Take care.